My name is Owen Smith, and I'm happy to welcome everybody here. Looks like a great crowd. I'm very fortunate that I walked around this room, and I think I know everybody in this room, or virtually everybody in this room, so I'm not going to get involved in talking about who I am. We're here for an event that Bernadette has talked to me about doing for at least 6 months or a year. Those of you who haven't figured it out yet, today would have been Bill Casey's 100th birthday. Hence the timing, and I'm very happy that the staff at the Institute of World Politics has helped by putting together this event, and I've said it a couple times yesterday, I say it again, thank you to all the IWP staffers who have worked on this event. You've done a wonderful job. There is a priest who our family has known for more years, I think, that he and I either of us wanted to acknowledge, who is currently working in the Holy Land, and he's going to lead us in a prayer to start. Father Emmett Kelly.
The nature of the prayer is going to require me just to say a couple of lines to complete Owen's introduction at the request of John, the director of IWP. I was born in the Holy Land, like you might figure out, right? And I work in the Promised Land in Jerusalem. So that was a providential preparation. And I run a little tent of Abraham in the desert. It's a house with 280 beds. It's the Vatican guest house in Jerusalem for pilgrims and visitors to Jerusalem. And we are blessed there to receive everybody. We have about 30% Protestant coming to the house, and we have Armenians and Greek Orthodox and Jews and Shabbat, and we even have some Muslims show up on certain occasions for, these type of NGO meetings with peace at the grassroots level and so on. And then our director calls it Noah's Ark. All God's creatures fit in there. So we decided to do a similar project in Galilee, 2.5 hours north on the Sea of Galilee. And we could have ended up anywhere in a beautiful hill with a beautiful view of the lake, but we ended up in Magdala. You probably heard of the name Magdala, associated with Mary Magdalene. And there, in the process of building this new center, we were blessed with a huge discovery. We found and excavated a first-century synagogue. It's the 7th first-century synagogue ever excavated, and there are pieces of mosaic and frescoes from the first century, making it the most beautiful synagogue of antiquity. And it happens also to be the first synagogue ever excavated where Jesus walked from his time. So it's an amazing experience of going back in history and touching those places at that time. It brings everybody together. And there also inside the synagogue we found a carved stone the size of a coffee table that's completely unique. Never was anything found like it, carved on all sides with religious symbolism pertaining to the Temple of Jerusalem. And on this stone there's the oldest menorah ever found on stone. And obviously interest in archaeology grew, and one thought fascinates me about archaeology. When you see the archaeologists, the volunteers, we've over had 550 volunteers from 20 countries, and you see them finding a piece of mosaic, a little bit of fresco, and getting so excited about finding this remnant from 1,500 years ago. And then I was thinking, what about the Byzantine people who built it, or the first century Jews who built that synagogue? And say, is that all you're finding from my beautiful synagogue? Is that all you're finding from my beautiful building from our empire? It's a different perspective. So on that way, I want to say these couple of words of prayer. Archaeology shows us how civilizations pass away. We are so thrilled to find a little piece of mosaic, remains of splendid buildings of ancient empires. Life is changed, not taken away. All the battles Bill fought, all the intelligence he sought, like St. Thomas Aquinas commented, on his deathbed about his massive theological work and requested it be burned as a piece of useless straw. These quests of Bill now seem to him so deeply relativized as he contemplates the divinity without the earthly veil. We thank God for his life, which emerged 100 years ago to daylight. His long, faithful marriage to Sophia, and his most magnificent legacy, Bernadette. We ask you to bless all these states, men and women, and those preparing for statecraft who are here today to serve their country and peoples far beyond these borders, to know in depth the dignity of every human person and serve their well-being with their whole heart and soul. Bless all those gathered here today to learn dedication and courage, wisdom and humility, as each of us explores Bill Casey's accomplishments and discern the duties we are called to nobly fulfill in our brief time on this earth. God bless America. God bless mankind across the entire globe. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Those are words of wisdom. Thank you for joining us. I know this was the last minute, and because I know you're supposed to be in Rome voting, but not quite yet. By the way, I heard Black spoke this morning, so we don't have any news. As you know, this event is being sponsored by the Institute for World Politics, a graduate school, which is essentially a graduate school which is trying to train young men and women to go forward in the world and to ensure that we don't have any more WW1s and WW2s and the like. I like to think of it, we're trying to prevent another Cold War. We're trying to build peace. And it was John Lynchowski's notion to set up the school quite a few years ago. And he is now the chairman. Half the people in this room, of course, know the school as John's place, but technically it's the Institute of World Politics. So I'm going to ask John Lynchowski, who had a long experience with Bill during the Reagan administration at the National Security. He's been in education for many years at Georgetown, and he's been running IWP for how many years now? 22 years. So I haven't been chairman that long. So John is going to welcome you on behalf of the Institute.
Thank you, Owen. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and an honor to have you all here. This is a very special event for us at IWP, and I wanted to thank Owen and Bernadette for their extraordinary leadership in putting this together. We've been particularly blessed at the Institute to have an association with the Casey Smith family, and we also have been the beneficiaries of an extraordinary donation, which is that part of Bill Casey's personal library, which concerns international relations, war, intelligence, and the like. I had the privilege of being received by Sophia in the family home at Maynole a number of years ago, and I saw this library, and it was an object of great envy to witness this extraordinary collection, and we maintain it as just a half a block away on our campus as a portrait of Bill Casey's mind and as a standard to which our students can to which our students can try to meet so that they understand what kind of intellectual parameters and depth has to be achieved in order to reach the summit of the intelligence business. For those of you who don't know IWP, we are a school of statecraft, international affairs, and national security. We're the only school in the country that is specifically designed to have a curriculum architecture to study all of the different arts of statecraft, including military strategy, intelligence, counterintelligence, the arts of diplomacy and peacemaking, public diplomacy, cultural diplomacy, and those harder-edged elements of strategic influence, including strategic communications, counterpropaganda, political action, political warfare, ideological warfare. We also cover various aspects of economic strategy and how all of these arts are integrated into, so to speak, the symphony of our national strategy. We liken each of them to an instrument in an orchestra, and we want our students to be able to play their instrument well, but as I like to say, you cannot be blaring your trumpet loudly when it's the time of the symphony to listen to the harp. And the conductors have to be aware that there even is a harp in the orchestra, not to mention the woodwinds and the double basses. And so integrated strategic thinking is a large part of our philosophy, and we're particularly interested that people master the non-military instruments of statecraft so that we can minimize the necessity of having to use force and spill blood and treasure unnecessarily, unless it's finally a last resort. We have been particularly inspired by Bill Casey at IWP. I had the great privilege myself when I worked in the National Security Council of having numerous interactions with him and with his extraordinary staff. I got personally interested in the subject of intelligence policy and had to learn, unfortunately, through a lot of on-the-job training about how I, in a policy-making position, had responsibilities in intelligence policy, and how I also could be a better consumer of intelligence. And I found that many policymakers are not as good consumers of intelligence as they ought to be, precisely because they don't know the process and they are under illusions about how the intelligence system works. And so we started teaching intelligence at IWP from our very first year of offering classes in 1992, and it's been an integral part of our curriculum ever since. We have been constantly inspired by the legacy of Bill on so many different aspects of this study, and I may get a chance to say a few more words about this later. But I just wanted to say it is a great honor to see so many distinguished public servants here, people who had worked with Bill. I know that there are one or two former directors of Central Intelligence in our number, people who have worked anonymously, who have been the generals of the intelligence community, and I just want to thank you for being here and your participation. Thank you. I forgot. It's now my my pleasure to do my duty to introduce Bernadette Casey Smith, Bill's daughter, who has done so much to help maintain Bill's legacy, and she is a font of information about so many different aspects of Bill's life, having traveled with him around the world a number of times and been intimately involved in so many of the different aspects of his professional career, not to mention being his baby daughter. Bernadette, please come up and welcome everybody.
thank you so much. Happy birthday, Dad. It's so wonderful to see so many of Dad's old friends here. It's unbelievable. A passing thought, a whim, I said, oh gee, wouldn't it be nice, has become a reality. And I am just so thankful for all of you for being here. And Owen, I want to thank you, my love, for putting this together. I thought of it, but he ran with it, and here we are. And the Institute, John, and your colleagues, and especially Amanda and Rachel, you did an incredible job. The booklet on Dad is extraordinary. I will treasure it always. And I don't see it, but Barbara Haywood, who helped gather all the Reaganites and all Dad's friends from many facets of his life, worked tirelessly to put this together. She was Dad's secretary in New York before the campaign, the primary, and came to Washington, stayed in Washington, became George Bush's secretary in the White House as vice president, and it's been just so wonderful. Thank you for putting this wonderful day together, Barbara, wherever you are. And again, for all of you for sharing this day with us. I know Dad would be very pleased to see all his friends and colleagues and associates here, and admirers too, people who weren't even born when Dad was in government. I'm often asked, what was Bill Casey like? And my answer is the best. What else would you expect an only daughter to say? But it's true. It's true. He was supportive, funny, adventurous, whimsical, and caring. He loved to read. He loved to play golf, as you all know, and always took a telephone call. Anyone who called, he would answer the phone, which is very unusual in Washington. He was a very hard worker, but he always had time for others. He could be on a dining room table writing a very important speech or a paper, and you would say, "Hey, Dad, you want to go to the movies?" Up he went in, and he was ready to go. He was fun to be around. Owen and I used to double date with them because they were our most interesting friends. And you know what? He thought I was great. Even when I was a gawky kid, he thought I was great. It was wonderful. He always included me in everything he did, whether it was dinner at the White House or a trip around the world. He wanted me to experience the wonders he experienced. And that's a treasure that I'll always have. Either with friends, dinner with friends, or traveling, we saw the world together. In politics and before, when I graduated from high school, he decided that I had to see the world, so I had a grand tour. We spent 11 weeks in Europe. It was unbelievable. And he knew everything. He knew, what he was seeing, the history. It was exhausting, but it was wonderful. And the only thing he said, I don't know if you're getting everything. What church is this? What church is that? We saw 4 cathedrals a day. I mean, it was a little hard at 18 to remember them all, but it was such a great experience. And with Dad's friends, I met people all around the world and of great position, and It wasn't their position. There's just some wonderful, wonderful people in government. And I had the privilege of meeting them, which I'm very thankful for. Getting back to Dad. Dad's core positions were rock solid. He very simply loved his God, his country, and his family. And the best way I can kind of portray that to you is that I want to share with you a letter that he wrote me on my first birthday, which I didn't know existed until Dad passed. And People magazine came over and said, "Hey, don't you have any young pictures of your father?" And we were in a picture family. We never really took pictures. So I said, well, I remembered in the top of Mom's closet, there was this big box with a lot of letters that Dad wrote her through the years. And I said, maybe there's a picture in there. So I went up, I got the box, I took out the first letter, and it was to me. And this is what I read. It was written on May 10th, 1944. My darling daughter, I'm going to take a sip. I'm getting dry. That's good. Today is your first birthday. Though there is an ocean between us, I feel that you and I, through your mother, are as close today in spirit and soul as I know your mother and I are. There is no material thing that I would not give to bring the three of us together quickly and forever. You don't remember, but we'll never forget the quiet happiness and joy we knew when you were just a little bundle of 2, 3, 4, 5 months. I used to come home and wrestle all around the house with you. You squawked and squirmed and grunted and groaned, just like a wrestler should. Then we'd eat, and you'd insist on your mother holding you in one arm and trying to eat with the other. Somehow she always managed. Then we'd roll you out to the roof deck to give you some fresh air and to give the neighbors a chance to admire you. You'd delight all of us by smiling and looking very happy and content. As I write now, I have a picture of you standing with the help of a big tree, but still standing. Your mother sent it to me, and it must have been taken when you were about 11 months old. Looking down at me from the mantelpiece is a picture of you, your mother and me, just before I went overseas. It's hard for me to realize that you've become such a big girl in the 6 months between those two pictures, and it will always be a big loss to me not to have seen and helped you grow. But we'll make up for it when we start over again. I remember so vividly the night there were two. We had the picture of the three of us taken the Sunday I left you in Belmore, and the morning I left your mom in Washington. I was filled with such a strong mixture of zest for the pending adventure and a strong desire to do my part in the nasty job which faced my generation, and sadness and apprehension at leaving those I loved dearly. Now it seems like a bad dream to which I'd like to return because you and your mother were there. Today, things seem brighter. This ocean was placed between us by forces you never knew, which the generation before mine failed to control and which mine must stamp out. It is and will be more of a nasty job, but it is a task which must be done if we are to live in peace, freedom, and decency. We shrank from the job, and the dangers grew. And then we found the will to tackle it. And now it seems certain that the job will be done, and that my generation and yours will get a chance to control the forces of aggression and brutality with God's blessing, to have fun together in our penthouse in New York, on the farm your mom wants, in the suburb home with a lot of glass and lots of rolling ground, with all the books we'll get to and read, with all the friends we'll have, with trips to Europe and Ireland and South America and California, and the West Indies, where your mom and I had our honeymoon. And talking and swapping ideas, and in just being kind to each other and everybody else, and in worship of God and in living the way He intended us to live. Next time you write, don't tell me you have more hair than I have, or you'll be over my knee and your dignity will be invaded as soon as I cross the ocean again. All my love, your dad. My mom and dad were an amazing team. And I truly believe Dad would not have accomplished as much as he did had he not have a partner like my mother to support him. They were just wonderful together, and she was an amazing woman in her own right. But that's another birthday party, so. Dad was committed to making the world a safe place for freedom-loving people. He spent his life focusing on peace and security, starting as a young man during World War II, up to bringing down the Soviet Union at the CIA. Unfortunately, today, our generation and your generation have a similar fight. Different enemies, but a similar fight. And I just want to say, thankfully, today we have the Institute of World Politics and John Lakowski, who has taken up the cause that were so important to Dad in a different way, but just as passionately. John is defending our way of life and our freedom by teaching the important art of national security, international affairs, and statecraft to the next generation. Bravo, John. Keep up your phenomenal job. And if there's anyone here who loves their country and wants to see it remain strong and free, the Institute of World Politics is what you should support. I thank you, and I know today is going to be wonderful. Thank you all for coming.
I think one of the eras of Bill Casey's professional career that he was most proud of and that he liked to look back on was his role during the Second World War. Unfortunately, we didn't have copies. We do have copies of his book on the American Revolution, which you'll be receiving at lunchtime, I guess. They're outside in the lobby for anybody who'd like one. But he also wrote a book during the, just before he became DCI, and he didn't publish it while he was DCI because he felt it wouldn't be appropriate to publish it. But he had promised one of his mentors, Wild Bill Donovan, that he would do a book on the OSS, and he did. And many of you have probably seen it. It's available. If you contact me, I can make sure you get a copy. But he really enjoyed his involvement with the OSS. He was one of the people who helped put together the Veterans of the OSS, which is now the OSS Society. And I've asked a friend of his, pardon me, a person who we worked with in the OSS, who is the only OSS officer who continues at the CIA. He's still active at the CIA, or currently active at the CIA. He's had a couple other careers as a professor at Harvard, in the State Department for a lot of years, in the intelligence side of the State Department. Since then, he's been the deputy ambassador. He was a part of the staff with Dick Walters, General Vernon Walters. I shouldn't be so informal, but everybody who knew him, Walters told a story. He says, anybody that calls me, hey, Vern, obviously doesn't know me. Everybody knew him as Dick. But he was at the UN and in Germany with General Walters, and as an ambassador. And he is now the fancy title, I never remember your title, Special Assistant for Foreign Intelligence Relationships at the CIA. And I'm going to ask him to talk a little bit about the OSS and Bill's role at the OSS. We're going to sit down for this one. So, Hugh Montgomery. I didn't say his name. That's terrible. Hugh Montgomery. I know him as you. I'm supposed to call him Mr. Ambassador, but I know him as you.